Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another edition of Inside the Firm. I'm here with Lance Nice Guy Cayko. I am just your host, Al Gore. Lance, why are you such a nice guy?
I can't even remember. I just know that they call me that on a routine basis. If there's anything that anybody says about me, wow, that guy's a nice guy. He's definitely not a jerk.
Yep. So anyways, update about what we're going to be talking today before we get into the reads. We're going to be talking about two-pass. And I want people to think about this with society and the economy and the U.S. and all that. We're going to talk about a really cool idea for a construction robot. And then Entree Architect. If you're not in the Entree Architect Facebook community, you need to be in there. It's where all the knowledge is shared and going from there. But before we get to that, go to buildabetterco.com and watch our 5 shifts to boost your profit, right? Take a look at it. It's a free webinar, free resource. It's gotten great reviews. If you are not making 20% plus on profit, you need to take a look at that. It's going to help you basically manage the economy, manage the inflation, be more efficient at your firm, take more vacations with that, whatever you want to do with that. It's all up to you. BuildABetterCo.com.
And check out episode 300, where Alex basically talks about the whole thing in much more detail. And when you're done looking at that, I now need you to head over to ARCAT.com because accurate data is crucial, especially in today's business environment. Outdated and inaccurate data leads to turnarounds, delays, and rising costs. With supply chain and staffing issues, these costs and delays can multiply. That's why a resource like ARCAT.com is so important. ARCAT works with manufacturers to keep their data up to date and accurate and offers it to you easily accessible and free. Use ARCAT's powerful search engine to find what you need and download it right there on their website without needing to pay anything or even register. So try ARCAT.com today. That's ARCAT.com. Last but certainly not least, PellaLuxury.com/the firm. Experience a collection of brands that brings your creative vision to life. The luxury division of Pella is a world-class collection of brands, including Duratherm, Riley, and Bonelli, all pioneers of industry who provide window and door solutions to discerning architects, the building industry, and beyond. During this year in 2023, we know how important it is to step back and spend time in gratitude. We appreciate all our clients trusting us with their projects in a record-breaking year. We are excited and ready to take on the new year. In 2023, the luxury division of Pella doesn't push beyond the limits. They set them. Explore PellaLuxury.com/the firm today.
There we go. So shout out to Stanley K. Wrigley.
Yep. He's the author of Brutal Minds. And Brutal Minds is, it says, the dark world of left-wing brainwashing in our universities. I'm going to have Stanley on the podcast on the Monday morning show in about 3 weeks. I'm excited to listen to him. He is a professor at, I believe, Drexel University, and he's gonna drop some red pills and some knowledge bombs on the show. So, yeah, but while we're giving him a shout out, he sent us like 20 books.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
It's so funny. We were just talking about brainwashing. On Netflix, there's this magician show, and the first season, the first episode, it's the last segment in there. He basically brainwashes and influences influencers, and it's quite funny and illuminating how it's done. So it real tactic. Interesting to see what's going on there. Next, I want to show you this construction robot, Lance. And you tell me what you think about it. Okay, describe. Whoa, we don't need the sound on there. What are you seeing? What is it doing?
It looks like a Roomba, and I'm trying to guess what it's doing. It's running around. It's chalking lines on the floor. It must be doing a framing layout.
I love this idea.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
For a robot. just to program that in and just think you could. I'm not an AutoCAD fan, but I know how it works. You could easily have a program saying, take this line layer,
Yes.
write this line layer on the ground, and it just does it. And robots and
What is this product? Like, what does it say it is?
Let's take a look.
Dusty Robotics. Yeah.
Via Amazon Engineering.
Amazing engineering. Yep.
Oh, amazing.
Go
Okay,
up. Okay, keep going. Yeah. Dusty Robotics tools.
I'll go back.
There you go. Yeah. Dusty robot powered tools for modern construction workforce. Interesting.
I'm
That's
sure
from
it might be
California.
expensive now, but
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Does it say product? Go up to product. They aren't telling you how much it costs. You should sign up and tell us, Al.
look at that. Soffit. Ooh,
Lays out
second.
soft. Lays out. Yep. Does it for wood, obviously. Very, very pricing plans. Pricing plans. What
What's
does
our
it
pricing
say?
plans? Ooh, they got a printer subscription and concierge. Request a quote.
Okay.
Ah.
All right. Well, either way, so I would say this is probably bleeding edge. And once it moves into cutting edge, just like the LiDAR scanning that folks are starting to implement at their architecture firms, even their construction and real estate firms. Now, the price point started at like 25 to 50,000 for these cameras. And now, we talked about it on our show multiple times now. We got the whole setup for about $8K. It paid itself off like the first week we had it. And I got to imagine we're going to get to a point with this for this sort of a layout thing. I think this is awesome.
Yeah. Very,
I need this in my life for sure.
It need multiple iterations.
That thing will not take smoke breaks. That thing will not be hungover. That thing will just do its job. It won't even complain.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah. I love it too. I'm just trying to think about other ideas too. Like if it could, let's say it has wheels where it could move sideways too, and you could put down a base plate, and it could just like, if it had a little arm or just like the overhang, and be like stud, like king stud, jack. Just print it out.
Oh yeah, I could do that. We could maybe do that. What I really want is I want one that clings to the wall and the ceilings and does all the taping and texturing and mudding. That would just be giant.
Ooh.
That would be if please make Elon. You're reading later on the show, and if you could just make that happen, that would be cool.
Yeah. All right. Hard pivot.
Good.
From robots into two-pass. I want to set a couple scenarios for you and get your reaction.
All right.
Okay. So one is this idea that society and culture swings on a pendulum, right? And what's happening today on both sides of the political aisle is they are untethering responsibility to reality. Like their fiscal responsibility isn't tethered to reality. And I'll go with government spending. I'll give specific examples, right? So let's first use Chicago. Chicago public pension system works like this. If you're a police officer, a teacher, a fireman, work for the city. That's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's so funny is if you look at a lot of city demographics, the third biggest employer is normally the city.
Right.
Right? Librarians, whatever. Bunch of people, right? So Lance, if you work at that, the government decided your last year, you get 90% of your salary for the rest of your life. But the caveat to that is your salary includes overtime. So if you were rational or smart or wanted to make the most of it, and this is what happens, your last year, you pull as much overtime as possible.
Okay.
So let's say easy numbers, you used to be making $100,000 a year. So you get $90,000 for the rest of your life and your spouse's life, because that's what's fair. That's what we need to do for the people that served us, right?
Okay.
You pull overtime. Now that last year you made $175,000. So I don't even know what 90% of that. So now you're getting $150,000, more than you've ever made besides the last year. Where does the rubber hit the road? The rubber hits the road where, you just stated that. You didn't put away money to pay for that.
Okay.
So
this
literally
is the pension bubble. Keep going.
Literally right now, Chicago, 50% of your property taxes goes to people who are not even employed right now.
Right.
right? There's obviously an easy solution to this. Like other countries, other places have done solutions. Australia, New Zealand, places like this, they have government workers. They have a pension plan, and it's, hey, here's your salary. Here's how much must go into your pension plan. You can even choose where that goes if you want to put it in whatever, kind of like here, private, and that's what you get. So you pay for it, you choose it, then you get it. Why I'm doing these two contrasts is that if you think that who is in charge is smart and intelligent, they set up a system that they don't even know. They literally just made a rule unbased from reality and how to pay for it whatsoever. And if you think, hey, they're going to basically wise up and make hard decisions and tell all those people that that's not true. No, they're going to do the opposite. And what's the opposite? Just tax rich people, right? And a lot of people might say, hey, they need to pay more. Amazon's not paying. That's fine, right? What I'm saying is that they're going to go back to 70%, 80%, probably not 90% taxing on the wealthy. The only problem with that is, one is that didn't solve the problem of you just making stuff up and then just taxing rich people. And then all of a sudden you're just going to collapse the whole system. And this is what happened with Reagan. Then Reagan came in, did a lot of reforms. So I don't know that, like, to think that we're not going to go back to extremely high tax rates, because here's the opposite. You would just have to admit that you made a mistake and be like, no.
Yeah, and they can't do that. It's impossible for them to do that. They
Yeah.
can't do it. There's no responsibility in this world at this point.
And literally propose like, hey, the new thing going forward is what you pay in and what you make is what you get. Like instead of that basic solution, it's literally going to be a culture war and a fight, and are going to raise taxes immensely because they can't make rational decisions. And I'll go against the right here, and because the right isn't your savior on this either, right? And I want people to know if that happens, because like once you have clarity about things, like you can deal with them easier. Not that it's going to be nice, not, at least you know what's going on, right? Republicans, if you think, hey, they're going to come in, they're going to cut spending.
Those big mean Republicans.
Yep. They only do it when they're not in power.
Right.
They
only
try to
speak
cut
out of the side of their mouth. They're speaking out of both sides of their mouth, right? So on one side, when they're not in power, like, look at us. And then the other side of their mouth, it's like, yeah, but you don't have any power, so you're just all talk.
The most amount of money printed and spent and not taken in relative was when it's Republican president, Republican Senate, Republican Congress, right? So who knows how long this kind of culture war clash and just taxing and what I mean with the taxing is like you're not making things more efficient. Thus you're making yourself less competitive, right? So that might go on, who knows, 4, 8, 12 years, 20 years. And then eventually it has to swing back or else it just collapse. The other path is the basic status quo, right? And here's what people think is kind of the best outcome is America keeps making its decisions how it is. There's checks and balances. We run up a debt, but it's all fine. The Fed threads the needle. But what's happening that we saw since 1970s is basically like inflation keeps going up, productivity, while it says it's going up, like productivity is going up in other places like China and things like that. And essentially what we're making is a huge paper tiger. And why that is a paper tiger is, here's one example. Ukraine war, right? U.S. is sending a whole bunch of missiles. These missiles cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Sure. Even $500,000.
Yeah.
They're shooting down Iranian drones that cost $10,000. How sustainable is that?
Not very sustainable.
Not very sustainable.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you have this idea in America that, hey, the status quo is basically on the presumption that everyone else will do as worse as you.
Okay.
For you to maintain your status.
Okay.
If any country gets their act together, this is what happens when basically these big World War I, World War II happens, is that a new system comes in and totally destroys the old way of doing something. Sure. So what seems like the best scenario of status quo is like, hey, we just keep operating like we've been doing for 40, 50 years, leads to someone who's competent to take over, which is also not good.
Okay.
What do you think about those two paths?
The only thought I really had was I was hoping there was a pause and there wasn't, and that's okay. But I interviewed this gal, and her name is it's failing me right now. Let me get it up right here real quick. I interviewed her, and her episode is going to air in about 6 weeks, I think, at the end of May. So let's see. It was 1 second here. That was one I was on, and then I had her on. Merritt Khan. She's a real go-getter. She was awesome. And the way I think this relates to any kind of business is there's two things that are competing against each other. They either compete against each other or they live in harmony, and you want them to live in harmony with each other. Because and the competing example is you have a highly optimistic client with a very unrealistic expectation and not expectation, they perception of reality. So they have a very high level of optimism about what they're going to do. Let's say they come to you and they want to design and build a custom house. They're insanely optimistic about it.
It's going to be great, amazing.
Great, amazing.
Beautiful.
We're going to have all this glass. Oh my God, we're going to blur the lines between the outside and the inside. We're going to have these huge glass doors and this giant glass wall. It's going to be super
sleek,
modern,
elegant.
sleek. It's just going to be state of the art. We're going to be a net positive. And then their expectation and in reality is way off base because they don't understand how much those things cost comparative to what their actual budget is. So that's where it is. That's what I'm trying to relate it to. The pension idea here is like they said, like you said, they said that they were going to do these things without any kind of semblance to reality.
Yep.
And so you're setting yourself up for failure. So that's why I think it's super important to and what I told this gal was I said like when and I had another lady on, her name was Jan. She's from the UK. And she shocked me because I always had the impression that you need, like, you're going to have to be a seasoned business owner to be able to give people harsh truths and feel confident about it. And not feel sheepish about saying no, basically, to them. No in various ways. Either, like, no of, like, to them entirely, maybe, because they have that very high optimism and low expectation of what reality really is. Or, let's say, for instance, for Jan, she talked about on the show, she had this very high-end, very well-known client. She wouldn't tell me who they were, and that's okay. But she was like, if you went to a mall in America, their store would be in the mall, put it that way.
Okay.
She goes, I told them no. I saw their profit margins. I knew it was a failure. They were highly optimistic, but they were setting themselves up and then me up for failure. They would have been like they would have taken a third of our portfolio. They would have been like that big fish you want to go after to have like a solid base around you for that. So that's my take on the whole thing is like we are so separated from reality. And then the consequences involved with that reality, with this high level of optimism that, what happens at the end of that? Disaster, just disaster, like a reset.
Yeah. And I think that's like, if there was any, what I hate is when people go on these rants like I do or you do, and then they don't have any sort of solution or anything like that. I think individually, yourself just needs to be an actor in the sense of you can judge you should be able to judge what is reality and what is not reality. And you should be able to take a hard stance and not literally say, hey, if I hate this side of politics, the other side might be great. It is what I need to go to. No. All feet need to be held to the fire. Eternal vigilance need to happen or you'll go into tyranny. Holy cow. It is okay to say that your side is not doing the right thing and to be...
And you made a mistake, my God.
Yes. And
I am not
to
a fan
be
of
a seeker of truth.
Yes, a truther. I'm not a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger after what he told Americans. He said, "Screw your freedom." Yeah. But you know what he did this last 2 weeks? He apologized, and I'm kind of on the fence.
Did he?
Yeah, he apologized for it. Like, how much better off would the world be if some of these, all of these mistakes that were made with the government during COVID and just everything, like. A lot of people on the right side of the spectrum, they say like no amnesty, no forgiveness, and I'm with them. Like that was devastating in so many different ways. But and the reason they're saying that is because there's never any apologies for this. There's never any justice for all the wrongdoings and stuff like that. At some point, the dam has to break with all that, though. Like if light always wins compared to the darkness, if the truth always comes out no matter how deep the lies, and it seems like they do, no matter like all the truth. The problem is that the truth gets obfuscated for like 2 years, and then it finally sneaks out at the end.
Yep.
And then everybody's already moved on to a different lie that they're perpetuating.
Yep.
And we just repeat this cycle.
And the problem with not admitting mistakes is that now you have to make an apparatus to hold up the lie. And now you're setting people against each other, right? So one example is, we don't know factually, but many people have come out, and it seems to be the truth that it was probably a lab leak that COVID came from. That actually makes sense. It's not even the biggest deal. The bigger deal was covering that and saying that you can't talk about that and silencing people for talking about that and making the operation for doing that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Yep. I have one more thing too. Before this poll, what do you think the Fed is gonna come out with?
0.25.
I agree. 0.25.
I think they actually can. The economy, they could thread this needle. We've talked about it. Like, I can't believe, and we've said it on air. They could thread the needle perfectly. And they seem like they're doing it perfectly, meaning they didn't blow up the economy like they did during the financial crash in 2008 and 2009, where money completely froze up. And if money completely freezes up, then everybody's in trouble. I am hearing and seeing some things like that happen on the ground here. Our plumber, for instance, just had in 13 houses freeze up. Not like literally, but I mean from a financial standpoint, they're like, yeah, there's the funding dried up. But then they put that big stopgap in, and I wouldn't even have thought for a million years that would be the Fed's last available pivot. Was like, oh, you can actually insure everybody. Maybe there's even one more after this that they have. I mean, the big telling sign, like Alex talked about, I think last week, was when the BRICS meeting, when that's going to happen. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I forget the last one. South Africa. Yep. Makes up that acronym. They're going to meet in August. They're going to try to basically become whatever they decide is the currency. It will be the new dollar.
I hope they call it a brick. Like, shouldn't they call it a brick?
Sure. Sounds like a brick house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. In other news, if it's okay for us to pivot.
Yes. Hard pivot.
Hard
no soft
pivot. So, Mr. Elon Musk, hero, entrepreneur, best capitalist of all time, I think. He was interviewed by the BBC, and he invited him into Twitter. And I've got a little clip here that I don't even think Alex has seen this yet, because he's only seen the highlight of him body slamming the BBC reporter on the question of hate speech and all that. This is much different. This is business related. Here we go.
In rough numbers, revenue dropped from $4.5 billion to $3 billion, and expenses went from $4.5 billion to $6 billion, creating a $3 billion negative cash flow situation. And Twitter having $1 billion in the bank. That's 4 months to live. So unless drastic action was taken immediately, this company is going to die and be owned by the banks.
Let's talk about that drastic action, because almost immediately you sacked a lot of Twitter workers. And I spoke to them. It was very easy to speak to them when it happened. And the way they said, pretty much everyone said, is that it felt quite haphazard.
It was.
And it felt a little bit uncaring.
I wouldn't say uncaring. The issue is, like, the company's either going to go bankrupt, or if we do not cut costs immediately, this is not a uncaring situation. It's like if the whole ship sinks, then nobody's got a job.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just lost their jobs like that. They weren't. They didn't even know they'd lost their jobs often. They just were just frozen out of their accounts.
What would you do?
Well, you might want to give someone some notice. I mean, you might. By the way, I'm not running Twitter, but,
I know, but
this is the criticism, and this is what staff members say. A little bit of notice, you know.
No, I understand. If you have 4 months to live, 120 days. In 120 days, you're dead. So what do you want to do?
I'm going to bleep this. You to that reporter from the BBC. What a little prick. Go ahead.
A lot of bleeps on that one. Did he go on and say, because I remember when it came out, the severance packages were something like 6 to 8 months.
He goes on to say that they were at a minimum 3 months.
Okay, 3 months
of salary.
So a lot of times with firings, I've gotten fired. I've gotten laid off. I've laid off people. It comes immediately, but then it comes immediately because you don't want anyone to sabotage your internal systems.
Yeah.
So like, notice that you're going to get fired never happens in the history. Now, there are probably some cases where it has, like maybe manufacturing, like, hey, you're going to be laid off in 4 months. The production line is going down, whatever. Sure. But generally, especially in tech, right, it doesn't happen. So your lifeline then is on
maybe
that back end.
Maybe give them some notice. Try why I was so angry at the reaction there with that guy is like, run a business. Do it. Run a business. Put your ass on the line for once. Instead of having this cushy publicly, by the way. And then there was the other thing the PBC guy was saying. It was like, we should be labeled as publicly funded. And Elon laughed about it, and he goes like, I'll do it if you want to. I'll label you guys as publicly. If people don't know what I'm talking about, it's NPR is now boycotting Twitter because Elon Musk rightly put a label on them that said, you guys are state-run media. They are. They're federally funded. It's on their website. I don't know how you could not have that definition be correct. So he was complaining that, we're publicly funded. We're not propaganda and all this stuff. Like you're in a very cushy propagandic machine guy. You step out of your little comfort box, go run a little business for once, and I want you to put your ass on the line, and I want you to recognize the reality of every single business owner. I don't care how small you are, how big you are. You have 120, you have X amount of days to live. What does that mean? You have hopefully projected, if you're following along with this show, how much billable work, how much available work you have, then you have cash reserves. You have to project where your death blow is. Like, at what point do you have to start making hard decisions for this? So I went and asked the Ontario Architect community, how much billable, if you're ever watching on YouTube, you'll see this, how much billable work in terms of months is your rule of thumb to have in your books at a minimum using an equation as follows. Total figure of billable architecture work divided by cost to run your firm, including salaries, plus 10% profit per month equals X amount of months. Yep. And most people, and Al and I have been talking about this internally, so there was 18 people that responded. That was good enough for me. 33% of people said 6 months. 16% said 12 months.
That's huge.
Which is amazing. And then the other big figure was 3 months.
Yep. We use 20% profit because we're the profits of profit.
As a profit of profit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, so what I was hoping you could talk about, Al, was like, you and I kind of decided, like, yeah, it seems like the default people are just going to say is 6 months. It's kind of like with your own personal finances. You're like, I need 3 months.
Yep.
Yep. Why do you think, like, what would you tell somebody listening that says, like, how do you actually figure out exactly where you need to be?
I think first off, I think it's fine if you make your backlog, right? And the profit course goes over this, and there's a whole bunch of things to it. But if you make your backlog, and if you think in your head, okay, 6 months, that's fine. But once you start tracking it for 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, we have been operating for years on a 4-month backlog. So like that is our realistic backlog, right? And now we use that as a metric. If it gets too much, you don't want that backlog to grow too much because now you aren't supplying your clients with timely responses and executing the work, right? If it goes down 2 months, 2 months or however many months, like, holy cow, something might be happening. We need to be prepared for how to cut costs, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say about the publicly funded thing. So the devil's advocate to that is they state, NPR and BBC, that this attacks their credibility and journalistic ethics and stuff like that because, they are upstanding and all that. It doesn't. And here's why. It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen very hard-hitting pieces from those two organizations? I could be wrong, but I listened to NPR for a while until literally every break was a jazz break of 4 minutes of nonsense, and their news wasn't news, right? There's so many headlines and so many flashing lights that are going on. Have you investigated how your government is literally corrupt and taking bribes and printing money and not, do you do that to the government that gives you money? Do you specifically then go into and say, yeah, looks like these senators and congressmen are making more money than Warren Buffett. Oh, they're ahead of your funding source? It's fine that you're publicly funded. It's fine. If I was running the government, I obviously wouldn't have it, right? But people should know, oh, you're not going to attack the hand that feeds you.
Bingo.
Maybe this is more about jazz and other cultural stuff that I
Bingo.
like. Now I know.
Yeah. Exactly.
NPR isn't National Public Radio.
Yeah.
National. National.
So crazy. They're so crazy.
National.
Exactly. All right. What do we got next,
Al? We have A.R.E. Jeopardy.
Let's do it.
Let's bring down the crew. Question number 1. According to the IRC, masonry weep holes shall be provided at a maximum space of how many inches on center? Is it A, 16, B, 24, C, 33, D, 48? Know this or give me your license
Wow.
now.
Al, the harsh reality king.
Weep hole.
Yeah, I'm confused too.
Weep holes? In me?
Yeah.
You guys know what it?
No, I understand. It's just you didn't give the answer I thought it was.
Oh, the answer is C.
33 inches.
Yeah, that's the obvious number.
Clearly.
Okay, once Lance is looking this up, once Lance talks, I'm gonna
You're gonna
double
look it
check.
up, double
But I thought it was 33. Okay. Question number 2. Why? Yeah, why is it's not working? Lintels supporting brick
Oh, I'll fix it for you.
should
Keep going.
bear on how many inches of support? Right? Lintels over window opening, door opening, whatever. Is it A, 3 inches, B, 4 inches, D, 6 inches? That was C, 6 inches. D, referred to engineer drawings.
Nice.
Like that?
Yep. What do we got?
B, 4 inches.
Okay. Number 3. What is the name of the first building in the world to use a structural diagrid system? Is it A, the Lloyd's Building, B, the Gherkin, C, the Hearst Tower, or D, the Torre Agbar?
I like that name.
The last one? Yep. That's a good name. I tried to roll my R's.
33 inches.
The question itself.
Need it again?
Yeah.
What is the name of the first building in the world to use a structural diagrid system? Is it A, the Lloyd's Building, B, the Gherkin, C, the Hearst Tower, or D, the Torre Agbar? And the correct answer is A, the Lloyd's Building. What do we got for scores? 1, 1, 1. 1? What the heck? Okay, number 4. What is the name of the architect who designed the Spiral Jetty, a land art piece located in Utah? Is it A, Michael Heiser, B, Richard Serra, C, Robert Smithson, D, Christo and Jean-Claude. Some French. Correct answer is C. Robert Smithson. Did anybody? Ross got it. Ross is the winner.
Ross, where are we going to eat?
Roost is a placeholder. Hadn't thought of that.
I like the
Roost? I like it.
Yep.
Or if we went early, that breakfast place right down the road.
You got it. I'm cool with the Roost.
Okay.
I can tell you're hungry.
No, I'm actually okay.
He's actually okay. Yeah. All right. If you like this episode, you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes, 5-star review. If you are a fan, please send us your questions, your comments, gifts. We love it. Talk to you next week.